The fluorescent lights of the emergency room don't just illuminate, they hum with a low, insistent vibration that seeps into the marrow of my bones. It's a constant reminder that here, time is measured in stuttering heartbeats and the sharp hiss of oxygen tanks hissing to life. I stand at the central station, staring at a monitor tracking a cardiac rhythm I've seen 1,000 times before, my own pulse dragging sluggishly, heavy as an anchor in deep, murky silt. The air clings to my skin with the acrid tang of bleach and the metallic bite of dried blood. I am 25, but in this harsh, flat light, my reflection in the polished glass of the medicine cabinet is that of a hollow specter. My skin bears the pallor of a winter overcast sky, and the hollows beneath my eyes are dark, bruised like shadows no amount of caffeine can chase away. Insomnia is not merely the absence of sleep. It is being forced awake for the quietest hours of the night, when the world feels frayed at the edges, as if it might unravel at any moment. I pull the chart for the man in bed for. He is stable for now, but the weight of the day presses down on my chest like a physical force. The head-on car accident at noon, the opioid overdose at 3, the silent, racking grief of a mother in the waiting room who'd just lost her teenage son. This is my life, a relentless cycle of trauma and temporary fixes, of stitching others back together while I feel myself fray into the gray, featureless background of the ER. Aaliyah is the only person who still sees me through that gray fog. When she walks into the hospital lobby to meet me at the end of my shift, the sterile air itself seems to shift, lightening, as if a window has been thrown open. She does not belong in this cold, air-conditioned silence. She carries the scent of cold pine and the sharp, clean high-altitude wind of the mountains, a scent I have not breathed in years, a scent that feels like home, even if I'd forgotten it. Aaliyah sits on a hard plastic chair in the waiting area, her posture rigid and alert, her eyes tracking the hurried movement of the staff with a sharp, focused intensity that makes her look ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. Her vibrancy is almost jarring against my bone-deep exhaustion. Her dark hair is pulled back in a tight, practical braid, and even in her worn hiking boots and fleece jacket, she exudes the unmistakable aura of the mountains, wild, unyielding, alive. "You're late," she says as I approach. Her voice is not an accusation. It is a lifeline, a grounding wire that tethers me back to something solid. She does not ask how I am. She does not need to. She sees the slump of my shoulders, the way I flinch at the shrill wail of a distant pager, the way my eyes scan the room as if bracing for the next crisis. We have been friends since we were 10, two girls who grew up in the same cookie-cutter suburban sprawl but turned our gazes in opposite directions. I reached for books, for safety, for the quiet predictability of a life mapped out in advance. She reached for the horizon, for the open sky, for the thrill of what lay just beyond the edge of the known. Now, she is a renowned ski instructor and a new member of the Alpine Rescue team. She is the sun, bright and unapologetic, and I am the moon, a pale reflection of the light she casts, because I have no light of my own left to burn. As we walk to her car, the cold night air slaps my face, sharp and bracing. I welcome it. For a few precious seconds, the cloying smell of the ER is gone, replaced by the crispness of winter and the faint scent of pine from the evergreens lining the street. "The team is short again," she says, her eyes fixed on the dark road as she drives, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. "We had a kid with a compound fracture on the north face yesterday. A 12-year-old, out skiing with his dad. We had to wait 40 minutes for a medic to be winched down because none of our rescuers have your level of trauma training." 40 minutes, Sadie. His legs swelled so bad we thought we'd have to amputate by the time help arrived. He almost lost it. I know where this conversation is going. It is a conversation we have circled back to 100 times in the past few months, a conversation I have avoided, a conversation that makes my chest tight with fear. "I'm an ER nurse, Aaliyah," I say, my voice flat and empty, a defense mechanism against the bright, burning hope in her eyes. "I work in a controlled environment, sterile rooms, all the equipment I need at my fingertips, back up down the hall. I do not jump out of helicopters, and I certainly do not slide down mountains at 60 miles an hour on skis." "You're a healer who's currently drowning in a sea of paperwork and fluorescent light," she counters, her voice sharp with frustration, her grip tightening on the steering wheel until her knuckles blanch. "I've seen you ski. I taught you to ski when we were 16. You have the mechanics, the muscle memory, the reflexes. You just lack the courage to step outside the cage you've built for yourself." "I have a healthy fear of dying," I say, my voice rising, the words sharp and bitter. There's a difference between courage and recklessness. No, she says, turning the car into my apartment complex, the tires crunching on the frosty gravel. You have a fear of living. You're staying in that hospital because it's a cage you've grown comfortable in, even if it's slowly killing you. But out there, on the ridge, on the mountain, you're needed. Not just as a pair of hands to patch up the hurt, but as a person. I need you there, Sadie. I cannot keep watching people suffer, keep watching them teeter on the edge of death, while I know the best trauma medic I've ever met is wasting away in a windowless room, surrounded by beeping machines and broken people. I look at her, the golden glow of the street lamps catching the unshakable determination in her features, the way her jaw is set, the way her eyes shine with a fierce, unbroken resolve. She is not just asking for a medic for her team. She is asking for me, for the Sadie I was before the ER stole my light, for the girl who used to ski down the hills behind our neighborhood, laughing, unafraid. But the thought of the open sky, the sheer, vertiginous drops, the unpredictable snow and ice, makes my stomach clench into a tight, cold knot of dread. The breaking point does not come during a massive, chaotic trauma, the kind that fills the ER with sirens and shouting and flurries of activity. It comes on a quiet Tuesday morning, the kind of morning where the ER is almost empty, where the only sounds are the soft beep of monitors and the rustle of paper charts. Mrs. Gable, an 80-year-old woman who has been a regular at the ER for years, is brought in with a minor respiratory infection, something we should have treated and sent her home within a few short hours. She is kind, soft-spoken, always wearing a lavender sachet in her coat pocket, always carrying a tattered paperback book, always asking after my family. I am the one who finds her, slumped over in her bed, her breathing stopped, her skin cold to the touch. A sudden, massive pulmonary embolism, silent, deadly, unforeseen. I perform chest compressions until my arms ache and my shoulders burn, until my palms are slick with sweat and my vision blurs at the edges. I follow every protocol to the letter, administer every drug, call for every backup, but the flat line on the monitor never flickers back to life. When I finally call time of death, the silence that falls over the room is louder than any siren, any shout, any beep of a machine I have ever heard. I walk into the break room, close the door behind me, and sit down on a metal chair. I stare at my hands, and for a long moment, I cannot feel them. They hang limp at my sides, moving with small, rapid jerks that I cannot stop. I do not feel sad, not yet. I feel empty, an empty vessel, drained of all emotion, all hope, all the things that made me human. The endless inner noise I have been fighting for years, the self-doubt, the hopelessness, the crushing weight of all the what-ifs, all the lives I could not save, falls silent, as if someone has flipped a switch. I pull out my phone and call Aaliyah. I do not say hello, do not say anything but the words that have been burning in my throat since I closed Mrs. Gable's eyes. Tell me what I need to do to join the rescue squad. There is a long, heavy pause on the other end of the line. I expect a cheer, a joke, a burst of relief. Instead, her voice is soft, laced with a quiet gravity that makes me realize she understands exactly what has just happened to me, exactly what this choice means. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Pack a bag, just the essentials. You're not coming back to this apartment for a while. The transition to the mountains is a brutal shock to my system. The air at the base camp is thin and sharp, cold enough to burn my lungs with every breath, tasting of ice and ozone and pine. Aaliyah does not give me time to overthink, to second-guess my choice, to turn back. She shoves a pile of gear into my hands, heavy snow pants, a thick down jacket, a helmet, goggles, gloves, and it all feels alien, foreign, like it belongs to someone else. She straps skis to my feet, skis far sturdier and heavier than any I have ever used, and leads me to the practice slopes at the base of the mountain, the snow crunching under our boots. Speed is your friend, Sadie, she says, gliding backward in front of me with an effortless grace that seems almost magical, her skis cutting clean, precise lines in the fresh powder. It is what gives you control, what keeps you upright. Slow down, and the snow will swallow you whole. I hate it. I hate the way the wind whips at my face, stinging my cheeks and eyes. I hate the way the ground seems to fall away beneath my skis, the way the world narrows down to nothing but the snow in front of me and the sound of my own ragged breathing. Every time my speed picks up, my first instinct is to lean back, to hit the brakes, to stop, to retreat, the same way I have retreated from life for years. Look at me. Aaliyah commands, her voice cutting through the whistling wind, sharp and clear. Do not look at the tips of your skis. Do not look at the trees lining the slope. Look only at me. If I am not falling, you are not falling. I lock my gaze on her. The bright yellow of her jacket, the steady set of her shoulders, the calm in her eyes, and I let myself be led. For the first time in years, I do not think about the past, about the lives I could not save, about Mrs. Gable's cold hand in mine. I do not think about the future, about the dangers of the mountain, about the fear that still clings to my bones. I think only about the next 10 feet of snow, the next turn, the next breath. Physical exhaustion creeps in, heavy and warm, and it overrides the mental fog that has clouded my mind for so long. When I fall, and I fall often, stumbling over my own skis, tripping over the snow, crashing into the soft drifts, Aaliyah does not rush to pull me up, does not offer pity or comfort. She waits, patient and unyielding, until I push myself back to my feet, until I find my own footing again. That is her lesson. The mountain does not coddle you, and neither will she. You have to stand on your own 2 feet. By the 3rd week, I am allowed to join a milk run, a routine patrol on the lower, gentler ridges of the mountain, far from the steep, dangerous peaks. I carry a specialized medical pack, 40 pounds of life-saving equipment slung over my shoulders, and it feels more familiar, more like an extension of myself, than the skis on my feet ever have. The pack is my anchor, my comfort, a reminder of the skills I have spent years honing, the skills that brought me here. We find a snowboarder who has taken a hard fall into a tree well, a hollow space beneath a snow-laden tree, a death trap for anyone who tumbles in. He is a young man, barely 20, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle, his face pale with pain and fear. Aaliyah reaches him first, her movements a blur of efficiency as she stabilizes his head and neck, calling out reassurances as she checks his airway and breathing. By the time I slide to a stop beside her, my heart is pounding so hard it feels like it will burst out of my chest, but my hands are steady, calm, unshaken. The moment my fingers touch the patient, the part of me that is the ER nurse takes over, cold, clinical, precise. I assess his injuries quickly, my eyes scanning his body, my hands moving over his chest and leg, and I spot the tension pneumothorax, the air trapped in his chest that is crushing his lung, a life-threatening injury that needs immediate treatment. My fingers move with a precision that surprises even me, and I reach into my pack for the needle and catheter I need to perform a needle decompression. Aaliyah watches me work, her role shifting from mentor to protector. She clears the area of loose snow and falling branches, signals the helicopter for extraction, and keeps the patient talking, keeps him conscious, while I perform the procedure in the middle of a snowdrift, the wind whipping snow into my face, the tree branches creaking overhead. When the patient is finally hoisted away by the helicopter, the whir of its rotors fading into the distance, we stand alone in the white silence of the mountain. The only sounds our own ragged breathing and the soft rustle of snow falling from the trees. Aaliyah reaches out and squeezes my shoulder, her hand warm through the thick layers of my Gore-Tex jacket. See, she says softly, a small, proud smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. You are not a ghost. You are alive. I look down at the tracks we have made in the snow, deep, messy, uneven tracks, but they are there, bold and unmistakable. I am leaving a mark on the world again. I am alive. Life at the base camp is a series of small, intimate rituals that bind the team together, a far cry from the cold, impersonal routine of ER. In the evenings, we sit by the wood stove in the small cabin that serves as our mess hall, the scent of burning cedar filling the air, warming us to the bone. I spend my evenings checking the inventory of my medical kits, restocking supplies, cleaning and sterilizing equipment, my hands moving with the same precision they did in the ER. Aaliyah spends her evenings waxing her skis, her movements slow and methodical, an almost obsessive attention to detail that ensures her skis are perfect, ready for anything the mountain might throw at her. I notice a small, frayed blue ribbon tied to the zipper of her primary rescue pack. She does not mention it, not once, but I see her touch it every time we are called out on a mission, a quick, fleeting brush of her fingers against the fabric, a silent gesture that feels like a prayer. It is a talisman of some kind, a piece of a story she has not yet told me, a secret she has kept close to her chest for years. One night, the wind howls against the rafters of the cabin, shaking the walls, the snow piling up outside the windows in huge drifts. The team is all asleep, the only light the faint glow of the dying wood stove. I sit down beside Aaliyah, who is still waxing her skis, and I ask her the question that has been burning in my mind for weeks. There are other medics, Aaliyah. Better medics, medics who know the mountain, who have skied these peaks their whole lives. Why me? Why did you fight so hard to get me here? She does not look up from her skis, her brush moving back and forth over the wood, the wax glistening in the firelight. The firelight flickers across her face, casting deep shadows over her features, highlighting the tightness in her jaw, the sadness in her eyes that she tries so hard to hide. Because you know what it is like to lose, Sadie. Most of the people in this unit are drawn to the mountain for the adrenaline, for the thrill of the rescue, for the rush of danger. They think they are immortal, that the mountain will never hurt them. You know the cost of failure. You know what it means to hold a life in your hands and watch it slip away. That knowledge makes you careful, makes you sharp, makes you fight harder. It makes you the most important person on this mountain and the most necessary. I realized then that our friendship is not just about shared history, about the years we spent growing up together, about the girlhood memories we hold dear. It is about a mutual understanding of the cracks in each other's armor, the scars we carry, the pain we have buried deep inside. She has been holding me together, pulling me out of the dark, for months, but in some way I do not yet fully understand. She is also looking to me to fill a void in her own soul, to heal a wound that has never fully closed. The weather changes on a Thursday, and it changes fast. The barometer in the lodge plummets to a dangerous low, the needles spinning wildly, and the sky turns a sickly, bruised purple, the kind of sky that promises a storm of unprecedented power. A massive winter storm is rolling in from the Pacific, a bomb cyclone that forecasters say will bring 3 feet of snow and 60-mile-an-hour winds, a storm that will shut down the mountain, that will make travel impossible, that will turn the peaks into a death trap. We are supposed to be on lockdown, hunkered down in the base camp, waiting out the storm. But a distress signal comes in at 4 p.m., a faint, crackling transmission over the radio. 3 experienced climbers are trapped on a narrow ledge near the summit of Mount Rainier, at over 12,000 feet. They are hunkered down in a small snow cave, but one of them, a woman in her 30s, is showing signs of severe altitude sickness, likely high-altitude cerebral edema, a swelling of the brain that is fatal if left untreated. She is confused, disoriented, her condition worsening by the minute. The head of the unit stares at the radar screen, his face grim, the green and red blips showing the storm closing in fast. It's a suicide mission to fly, he says, his voice heavy, the words hanging in the air like lead. The winds are too strong, the visibility too low. We have to go in on foot, hike to established Camp Muir at 10,000 feet, then push to the ledge if there's a window in the storm. If there is not, we turn back. No exceptions. Aaliyah is on her feet in an instant, her rescue pack slung over her shoulder, her skis in her hand. She looks at me, her eyes meeting mine across the room. There is no hesitation in her gaze, no fear, but there is something else, a flicker of dread, a shadow of panic that she tries to hide, and that I see, because I know her better than I know myself. I'm going, I say, my voice firm, steady, surprising even me with its resolve. I grab my medical pack and my skis, and I follow her to the door. The snow already starting to fall outside, tiny, sharp flakes like shards of glass stinging my face. We leave as the first full flurries hit, the snow coming down hard and fast, the wind picking up, howling through the trees. The ascent is a nightmare of vertical ice and bone-chilling wind, every step a struggle, every breath a burn. By the time we reach 10,000 feet, Camp Muir is barely visible through the whiteout, a condition where the sky and the ground merge into a single, disorienting void of white, where up and down, left and right, cease to have meaning. The wind whips the snow into our faces, blinding us, and the cold seeps into our bones, through every layer of gear, through every crack and crevice. I follow the faint glow of Aaliyah's taillight, a small red pinprick in the white darkness, my legs screaming in agony with every step of the climb, my lungs burning from the thin air. We are tethered together by a thin nylon cord, the only thing keeping us connected, the only thing keeping us from being separated, from being swallowed by the storm. Then it happens. A low, rumbling growl that I feel in my teeth before I hear it, a deep, earth-shaking vibration that reverberates through the mountain itself. Slide. Aaliyah screams, her voice barely audible over the howl of the wind, barely audible over the rumble of the mountain. Get low, now. It is not a primary avalanche, not a massive wall of snow and ice, but a secondary slough, a cascade of loose snow triggered by the wind loading, a wall of white that comes crashing down the mountain toward us at breakneck speed. I feel the ground give way beneath my feet, the snow shifting, sliding, pulling me down. I try to plant my ice axe, to dig it into the ice and hold on, but the snow is light and powdery like sugar, and the axe skids off the ice, useless. I am swept off my feet, lifted into the air by the force of the snow, and the tether snaps with a sickening pop as a sharp piece of falling ice severs the nylon cord clean in two. I tumble, end over end, down the steep slope of the mountain. Gravity becomes a chaotic, violent force, tossing me around like a ragdoll, slamming me into ice and rock and snow. I hit something hard. A jagged rock, a narrow ledge, and a searing flash of pain shoots up my right ankle, a pain so intense it makes my vision white out. Then, there is only the cold and the silence and the dark. I wake up face down in a deep snow drift, the snow pressing down on me, cold and suffocating. My radio is gone, likely ripped from my harness during the fall, lost somewhere in the snow. My right leg is bent at an unnatural angle, the pain a constant, throbbing fire, and even through the heavy layers of my snow pants and boots, I can feel the cold seeping into my core, slow and deadly, hypothermia setting in fast. I try to move, to push myself up, but the pain slams into me like a truck, a physical wall that I cannot break through. I am alone at 11,000 feet on a mountain in the middle of a blizzard, injured, stranded, with no way to call for help. I close my eyes, and for a moment, I am back in the ear, the fluorescent lights, the beeping monitors, the smell of bleach and blood. I see the faces of the patients I could not save, the faces that haunt my dreams, the teenaged boy from the car accident, the young woman from the overdose, Mrs. Gable, her lavender sachet peeking out of her coat pocket. I think, maybe this is it. Maybe this is how it ends. For me, for the girl who is too afraid to live, too afraid to fight. The hopelessness that I've fought for years creeps in, a cold, familiar shadow, whispering that it would be so easy to just close my eyes, to let the cold take me, to stop fighting. But then I smell it. Not bleach, not blood. Pine. The sharp, clean scent of Aaliyah, the scent of the mountains, the scent of hope. Through the roar of the wind, through the white noise of the snow, I hear a sound, a rhythmic scraping of ice axe against rock, a call, a shout, my name, over and over again. A silhouette breaks through the white curtain of snow, a flash of bright yellow, moving with a desperate, frantic speed, moving toward me, no matter the cost. Sadie. Aaliyah does not glide to a stop beside me. She crashes into the snow drift, her goggles gone, her face red and raw from the cold, encrusted with ice and snowflakes, her hair matted to her forehead. Her hands move to my neck, pressing against my carotid artery, checking for a pulse she fears is not there, and they move fast, too fast, a sign of the panic she is trying to hold back. I'm here, I whisper, the words freezing on my lips, forming small icicles that cling to my skin. I'm right here. Aaliyah's face crumples, the unbreakable mountain rescuer falling apart in front of me. It is the first time I have ever seen her look truly, utterly terrified. Don't you dare. She chokes out, tears freezing on her cheeks as they fall. Don't you dare leave me, Sadie. Not you, too. She works with a feverish, desperate intensity, her hands moving over my body, assessing my injuries, calling out to me, keeping me conscious. She stabilizes my leg using a collapsible splint from her pack, her movements quick and jerky, uncharacteristically clumsy, a sign of how hard she is fighting to keep it together. She wraps me in a thermal blanket, tucks it tight around me, and she keeps talking to me, rambling, telling me about the summer we spent at the lake when we were 12, about the terrible coffee from the diner at the base of the mountain that I love, about the ski trip we're going to take when the storm is over, about anything and everything to keep me from drifting off into the dark. She cannot call for help. The storm has knocked out the local radio repeaters, and her radio is barely working, only static and crackles coming through the speaker. She has no choice. She has to get me down the mountain herself. She kneels in the snow, her knees sinking deep into the drifts, and hauls me onto her back, her arms wrapping around my legs, her hands gripping my thighs tight. I weigh nearly as much as she does. Even without my gear, and the added weight of my medical pack and the splint on my leg makes it worse, but she pushes herself to her feet, her breath coming in ragged, gasping pants, her legs shaking under the strain. Hold on, she commands, her voice gritty, strained, and I wrap my arms around her neck, clinging to her like a lifeline, my face buried in the crook of her neck, smelling the scent of her sweat and the cedar wax on her jacket, the faint scent of pine that is uniquely her. She skis down that mountain with me on her back, navigating a treacherous, invisible landscape by sheer instinct and muscle memory, her skis cutting through the deep snow, her body leaning into every turn, every slope. She slips once, twice, her skis sliding on the ice, and I feel her stumble, feel her fight to stay upright, feel her push through the pain and the exhaustion and the fear. I listen to her heart, beating fast and fierce against my chest, a steady thrumming that is stronger than the storm, stronger than the mountain, stronger than death itself. We make it back to the base camp 4 hours later. At midnight, the storm still raging outside, the snow piled up to the roof of the cabin. The medical team is waiting for us, and they take over the second Aaliyah stumbles through the door, lowering me gently onto a cot, cutting away my gear, checking my injuries. But Aaliyah refuses to leave the room, refuses to sit down, refuses to let anyone touch her. She sits in the corner, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, her hands tucked under her arms, staring at the floor as they set my ankle, as they wrap it in a cast, as they hook me up to a heating pad to fight off the hypothermia. She does not move, does not speak, until the medics leave, until it is just the two of us in the dim light of the infirmary. That night, in the quiet of the infirmary, the wind still howling outside, I look at her, at the exhaustion in her face, at the fear that still lingers in her eyes, and I ask her the question that has been burning in my mind since she found me in the snow. You saved my life, Aaliyah. But when you found me, you looked like you were seeing a ghost, like you were reliving something terrible. She does not look at me for a long time, her gaze fixed on the floor, her fingers twisting the frayed blue ribbon she has pulled from her pack, twisting it until the fabric is tight. Then, she lifts her head, and her eyes meet mine, and they are filled with unshed tears, with pain, with guilt that has been eating her alive for years. 2 years ago, she begins, her voice barely a whisper, so soft I have to lean in to hear her. I had a partner, Chloe. She was my best friend, my co-rescuer, my sister. We were on a routine mission just like this one, a hiker with a sprained ankle on the lower ridge, a milk run. A small avalanche hit, a slough, just like the one that hit you. She fell, and she cut her thigh on a jagged rock, an arterial bleed, fast and deadly. I knew how to apply a tourniquet, I knew the basics, but I did not have the medical training to manage the rest, the skill to keep her alive until help arrived. We waited for a medic for an hour. By the time they got there, she was gone. The silence in the room is heavy, thick, suffocating, the weight of her words hanging in the air between us. I did not just want a medic on the team, Sadie, she says, her voice breaking, the tears finally falling, sliding down her cheeks, freezing on her chin. I wanted you, because I could not bear the thought of losing another best friend, another person I love, on this mountain. I thought if I could save you from the dark place you were in, if I could bring you here, to the mountain, maybe I could fix what I broke with Chloe. Maybe I could atone for my failure. I used you to try and outrun my own guilt. I reach out and take her hand, my fingers wrapping around hers. Her hand is cold, ice cold, but it stills the moment our fingers interlace, the small, rapid movement stopping, the panic fading. You did not use me, I say firmly, my voice steady, sure, as I squeeze her hand. You saw that I was dying in that hospital, just as surely as Chloe died on that mountain. You saw me drowning, and you reached into the dark and pulled me out. You saved me, Aaliyah, not just from the mountain but from myself. This was not atonement. This was friendship. This was love. The bond between us, the girls help girls bond, the friendship that has held us together for 15 years, is not a one-way street. Aaliyah has provided the physical rescue, the push I needed to step outside my cage, the light to guide me out of the dark. But I realize in that moment that I have also provided her with something she has been chasing for years. Absolution. My presence on the mountain, my survival, the fact that she saved me when she could not save Chloe. It is the only thing that can silence the ghosts of her past, the only thing that can heal her wound. We're both a mess, aren't we? She says, a small, watery smile breaking through the exhaustion and the pain, a smile that is bright and beautiful and alive. Yeah, I reply, squeezing her hand again, a smile tugging at my own lips, a smile I have not felt in years. But we're a mess that's still breathing, a mess that's still fighting. We sit there in the dim light of the infirmary for hours, two women who have been broken by the world in different ways, two women who have carried the weight of loss and guilt and fear for far too long, finding a weird, jagged kind of wholeness in the fact that we do not have to carry that weight alone anymore. We have each other. That is enough. My recovery takes months, months of physical therapy, of learning to walk again on a healed ankle, of skiing practice on the gentle slopes, of rebuilding my strength and my confidence. But I do not spend those months in my empty apartment, back in the city, back in the dark. I spend them at the base camp, surrounded by the mountains, surrounded by the team, surrounded by Aaliyah, and I use that time to draft a proposal, a plan born from the wreckage of our traumas, a plan to fix the gap that cost Chloe her life, that almost cost the 12-year-old boy his leg, that almost cost me everything. I realize Aaliyah was right. The gap between mountain rescue and emergency medical care is a death trap, a fatal delay that costs lives every year. I use my connections in the medical world, ER doctors, trauma surgeons, hospital administrators, and Aaliyah's reputation in the Alpine community, rescuers, ski resorts, outdoor organizations, to secure funding, to gather support, to turn my proposal into a reality. The Alpine Medical Response Initiative. We do not just train mountain rescuers to be basic medics, to patch up cuts and set sprains. We recruit ER and ICU nurses, trauma doctors, paramedics, medical professionals with the training to handle life-threatening injuries, and we teach them how to ski, how to climb, how to navigate the mountain, how to survive the harsh alpine environment. We create a hybrid breed of first responder, a medic who can fight off hypothermia and perform a needle decompression in a snowdrift, a rescuer who can ski down a steep slope and winch a patient to safety. Aaliyah is the head of training, teaching the medical professionals the ways of the mountain, the skills they need to survive. I am the clinical director, teaching the rescuers the advanced medical skills they need to save lives, the skills that Chloe never had, the skills that almost cost me my life. We work side by side, building something new from the ashes of our pain, something that will save lives, something that will honor Chloe's memory, something that will make the mountain a little less dangerous, a little more kind. My insomnia does not vanish entirely. The dark nights still come, but the nights are no longer filled with shadows and ghosts and the faces of the patients I could not save. They are filled with logistics and training manuals and late-night conversations with Aaliyah by the wood stove, with the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the next time someone falls at 11,000 feet, the next time someone is trapped in a snowdrift or a tree well, they will not have to wait 40 minutes for a miracle. They will have us. 1 year later, we stand on the summit of the ridge where I fell, where the sluice swept me down the mountain, where Aaliyah saved my life. It is a clear, crisp morning, the sky a brilliant, unbroken blue, the sun reflecting off the fresh snow with a brilliance that is almost blinding. The air is thin and sharp, but it does not burn my lungs anymore. It feels like home. I move with confidence now, my ankles strong, my skis cutting clean, precise lines in the snow, my mind clear, free of the fog that clouded it for years. I look at Aaliyah, standing beside me, and I see that she is not wearing the blue ribbon anymore. She buried it at the site of Chloe's accident a few weeks prior, a quiet, private ceremony, a final goodbye to the friend she lost, a final letting go of the guilt that held her captive for so long. She is free, just as I am free. Ready? She asks, adjusting her goggles, a bright, wild smile on her face. The smile of the girl I grew up with, the girl who loved the mountain, the girl who loved life. I look out over the vast, white expanse of the mountain, over the endless sky, over the horizon that Aaliyah has always reached for, the horizon I now reach for too. For the first time in my life, speed does not look like a loss of control. It does not look like danger. It looks like freedom. Ready, I say. We push off together, our skis sliding into the fresh powder, and we carve parallel lines down the steep slope of the mountain, two shadows moving as one, the wind whipping our hair back, the snow flying up around us, the only sound our synchronized breathing, steady and strong, and the soft whoosh of skis on snow. We are not just friends, not just rescuers, not just medics. We are each other's keepers, each other's light, each other's hope. In the silence of the mountain, the only rhythm that matters is the beat of our hearts, the sound of our breath, the feel of the wind in our hair. The ghosts are gone, chased away by the sun and the snow and the love we have for each other, replaced by the fierce, beautiful reality of the present. We have saved each other, and in doing so, we have finally learned how to fly.